Good morning, I'm Ed Lingao. It is Wednesday, the 12th of March, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. President Bongbong Marcos confirms that former President Rodrigo Duterte has been flown to The Hague following his arrest last night. The president says the plane carrying Duterte departed the Philippines at 11:03 p.m. on Tuesday. The former president is set to face the International Criminal Court on charges of crimes against humanity related to his administration's bloody war on drugs. Now accompanying him is his former executive secretary, Salvador Medialdea. On that note, let's take a look at what happened before the former president, Rodrigo Duterte, was flown to The Hague in the Netherlands. Here's the report.
By virtue of the warrant of arrest issued by the ICC for crimes against humanity. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte remained calm as he was read his Miranda rights when he arrived at the VIP Lodge in Kalayaan Hall or the 250th Presidential Airlift Wing at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City on Tuesday morning. He was taken there after being arrested at Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Terminal 3. CIDG Chief Police Major General Nicolas Torre personally served the arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. This is in connection with the alleged extrajudicial killings during the Duterte's administration's war on drugs. But in a video, Duterte questioned his arrest.
Show to me now the legal basis for my being here. As apparently I was brought here not of my own volition. It's somebody else's.
Inside with Duterte were his common-law wife, Hanilet Advencenia, his daughter Victoria Kitty Duterte, former LTFRB chairman and Duterte's lawyer Martin Delgra, and former executive secretary Salvador Medialdea. Other allies of the former president attempted to follow him, including former presidential aide Senator Bongo, who even brought food. But none of them were allowed entry into Villamor. Hanilet even tried to fetch the senator, but it only led to tension.
Notary lang siya. Notary lang. Notary lang. Notary lang. Notary lang. Notary lang. Notary lang. Notary! Karapatan ng presidente yan. Wala mong kaso eh.
The scenes during Duterte's arrest were condemned by Go and former DOLE Secretary Silvestre Bello.
The process should be, if there is really a warrant of arrest, it should be given to our Department of Justice para sila mag-implement. Oh, pero at saka kung talagang meron silang warrant of arrest, ang daling gumawa ng kopya, picture nila, pakita nila. Bakit hanggang ngayon di nila pinapakita? So imaginary yung warrant of arrest. Oh, bakit hindi nila pakita para makita ng buong bayan?
Supporters also rushed to Villamor to keep watch. They claimed they were not paid to be there and came willingly. Meanwhile, in Davao City, supporters of the former president lit candles at Rizal Park to protest his arrest.
The allies of the former president have voiced their disappointment and concern over his arrest. Former Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo denounces the arrest as unlawful, insisting that the International Criminal Court has no jurisdiction over the Philippines. Senator Bongo describes the ICC warrant as an affront to Philippine sovereignty, stressing that the court should not interfere in the country's domestic affairs. Echoing these concerns, Senator Robin Padilla appeals to President Marcos to prevent the Philippine National Police from acting on foreign directives, arguing that it undermines the country's sovereignty. Former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque also questions the apparent haste in Duterte's transfer to The Hague, claiming it bypasses procedures outlined in the Rome Statute. Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos expresses sympathy for the former president.
Ito po'y labag mismo doon sa Rome Statute of the ICC. Dahil nakasaad po sa Rome Statute ay kung makikipagtulungan ang lokal na pulis natin, ang PNP, sa pag-aaresto sa bisa ng mandamiento de aresto na inisyu ng ICC, ang dapat ay dalin muna siya sa isang regional trial court. No? Kung doon magdidesisyon ng regional trial court kung dapat nga pa siyang ipadala sa The Hague.
Awang-awa nga ako.
Paano niyo po nalaman mo?
Kasi matanda na, di ba? Parang sa tatay ko, nung nangyari, ganun din, nakakaawa din.
The children of former President Duterte condemns their father's arrest. Speaking in front of the Villamor Air Base last night, VP Sara Duterte claims that there was no legal basis for the arrest. She also criticized the involvement of the PNP in restricting access to the airbase, calling the situation, and we quote, crazy.
There is no legal basis at all to turn over or to endorse the president, the former president, to ICC. So, wala silang, kung para sila sa justice at sa batas, walang batas dito eh. So, nasaan sila? So, does that mean na parang he had it coming even if hindi sumusunod sa batas? Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, diba? Sabi ko, gagawin nila kung anong gusto nila. Kahit ang ibang bansa nagsalita na, diba? At saka, saan ka ba naman nakahanap ng military airbase na chief PNP ang in charge? At siya ang nagsasabi kung sino ang pwedeng pumasok at hindi pumasok. Kausap namin yung aming ICC lawyer and sinabi niya, this has never happened before. At sinabi niya na it's craziness.
For his part, Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte calls his father's arrest a political maneuver by the Marcos administration. He also claims that his father was kidnapped by authorities. Meantime, Veronica Kitty Duterte, who was with the former president at the airbase, claims that her father was taken without any notice. She posted an Instagram story showing a police van, saying her father was forcibly taken and put on a plane. In another post, she called it, and we quote again, kidnapping, and used the hashtag never forget. Meantime, the Global Commission on Drug Policy acknowledges the arrest of former President Duterte. The commission emphasized that Duterte's anti-drug campaign highlights the systemic failures of punitive drug policies. They warned that criminalizing and militarizing drug policy harms vulnerable communities and undermines public health initiatives. The group also stresses that reform should focus on rehabilitation, human rights, and public health rather than punishment. They urged governments worldwide to learn from the Philippines and called for a shift to evidence-based human rights respecting drug measures. And we now go to a live report coming from, of all people, the Morning Matters host herself, all the way from Europe, Ms. Gretchen Ho. Gretchen, what do you have for us this morning?
Good morning, Ed. Good to see you wake up so early in the morning. And good morning to also our viewers. We're still coming to you live here from Rome. With a quick turn of events, one day we're covering the Pope. Now we're following the biggest story of the year. That is the former president under arrest and on his way now to The Hague in Netherlands, about 1,600 kilometers away from Rome, from where I am. Now, as of 1 in the morning here, 7 a.m. in the Philippines and 4 a.m. in Dubai, we are getting word that the RPC-5219 Gulfstream G550 aircraft has already landed in Dubai. It will stay there for about an hour to refuel. Then it will take about 7 hours for that plane carrying former President Rodrigo Duterte to The Hague in 7 hours. And in the meantime, as we wait for the developments to occur, we got some insight on Duterte's arrest from Father Albert Alejo, the Jesuit priest who was one of those who protected critical ICC witnesses Edgar Batobato and Arturo Las Cañas while he was in the Philippines. And we got to speak with him, spend time with him in Rome. Here's our conversation.
Father Albert Alejo was in shock Tuesday morning as he woke up to news he did not expect.
When I opened my cell phone at 6 a.m. here in Vienna, I was pleasantly surprised, but I was not able to capture immediately my own emotion. So I've been expecting this. I've been praying for this. Now it's happening. It's kind of still surprising. Yung bang matagal mo hinihintay, matagal mo pinagtrabahuan, pero nung dumating, medyo magugulat ka pa rin.
Alejo is one of the priests who was vocal during the Duterte administration, speaking out against the war on drugs, advocating for human rights, and serving as a voice for the victims of extrajudicial killings.
Nakausap niyo na po ba sila lately?
Siyempre, mas malayo ako eh. May mga text-text lang.
Ano
Medyo
po
ingit
sabi?
nga ako doon sa mga malapit doon. Pero siyempre, merong mga chat groups. Oo. Na mangyak-ngyak. Sinasabi, Father, naiyak ako sa mga nangyari. Sana tuloy-tuloy na to.
He also admitted on Morning Matters that he took care of some ICC witnesses, including whistleblowers Edgar Matobato and Arturo Las Cañas, hitmen from the Davao Death Squad.
Pwede namang aminin, dumating sa kamay ko na. So, Father, pakialagaan mo muna to. Nung tinanong ko, si Edgar Matobato, nung nag-usap kami, sabi ko, anong gusto mong mangyari? Sabi niya, Father, ang dami kong kasalanan, dami kong napatay, at kasalanan ko yon. At handa akong parusahan ninyo, ibitay nyo ako, isilya electrica nyo ako, i-firing squad, dahil talaga namang marami akong napatay. Kaya lang, Father, inutusan kami. May isang grupo kami na sa tingin namin, akala namin yun yung magandang paraan ng paglilinis ng lipunan. Pero nung nakita namin na may mga pinapatay na wala namang pakalang kasalanan, may niraid kami ng mga estudyanteng babae na wala naman kami nahuling shabu man lang, tapos nirape muna bago patayin. Parang hinipo sila ng Panginoon. Sila Cañas, siya talaga yung mastermind ng mga designing ng ng pagpatay na talagang malapit na malapit sa kamay ni Duterte. Katunayan, inamin naman niya sa kanyang press conference doon pa mismo sa Senate na dalawang kapatid ni Arturo Las Cañas, dalawang kapatid niyang lalaki, napatay ng grupo nila. Pinatay ng grupo nila. Kasama siya, sabi niya, out of his own blind loyalty to Rodrigo Duterte nung mayor pa siya. Kaya kung bakit niya gagawin yun at ba't niya aminin kung hindi totoo yun, no? At inamin din niya na may mga panahon na nasilaw rin siya sa pera kasi may mga bayad yun eh.
Si Edgar Matobato at si Arturo Las Cañas, kamusta po lagay nila ngayon?
Nakalabas na sila ng bansa, no? Finally. So, na yun? Hawak na sila ng ICC na mga witness protection program.
For taking care of them, Alejo even got his own death threats.
Kami nila, Father Flavi, ganun. So,
Father Robert.
doon sa party na, meron ding death threat si Robert. Swerte pa nga kami, may threat lang kami. Yung iba, wala nang threat, pinatay na diretso eh. Yung sinasabi na papatayin kita, alam namin may tinatago ka.
When asked how confident he is over the buildup of the case against former President Rodrigo Duterte at the International Criminal Court, Father Albert says there's a rich collection of evidence from the first 7 months of the Duterte administration.
Yung unang 7 months, yung unang 7 buwan, nung humihingi ang mga journalist ng mga police reports, ang Philippine National Police, maluwag na maluwag nagbibigay sila ng police report. Pinagmamagaling kasi nila yun noon eh. Mayroon talagang mga ebidensya na galing mismo sa police. May mga dagdag dito. Ano pa? Siyempre, wala namang volunteer killers eh. Bayad yan eh. So, kailangan mo i-trace yung money flow. Meron ding nakuhang mga materials tungkol dyan.
It will be a long journey as the 3 judges of the pre-trial chamber will first have to go through a stage to determine if there's enough evidence to proceed to an actual trial, a process that could take at least 2 months.
The fact that we reach this point is already a sign of hope. Okay? Ngayon, ang masisiguro natin ay tama ang mga proseso niyan at magiging patas ang pagdidebate diyan. Hindi katulad ng ginawa nilang pagpatay na hindi man lang umabot sa paghahabla. Ngayon,
In
mahal na
time for the
araw,
Lenten
pag mea
season,
culpa
Father
tayo,
Albert had a message for the
buong
Filipino
bansa,
Catholic faithful.
harapin natin yung katotohanan na hindi isang tao lang may kasalanan dito. Isang buong lipunan na pumalakpak. Yung yung mga kamay na may dugo sa ating mga kamay, pumapalakpak pa sa mga pagpatay. Ngayon siguro mahal na araw, ewan ko, nag-imbita ka ng pari, di may konting sermon. Mahal na araw, kailangan natin isang pambansang pagdagok sa dibdib. Pambansang mea culpa. Walang pinabayaan natin ito maghugas ng kamay at maghugas ng puso.
And talagang madamdamin ang mga salita ni Father Albert Alejo nang makausap natin siya. Talagang ang lalim ng kanyang karanasan dito nga sa pagtalakay ng ICC investigation into the war on drugs. He has played a critical role by serving as a protector of the witnesses. Hindi lang naman daw siya, sabi niya, no, marami sila. Iisa lang siya doon sa mga tumulong to keep the witnesses safe. At yung kinukwento nga niya na lumapit sa kanya si Matobato at si Las Cañas, sabi niya, may mission din sila. Maraming man silang naging kasalanan dito sa war on drugs, meron silang mission at yun ay isiwalat ang mga bagay-bagay. He did clarify though, Ed, that he is not hiding here in Rome. He is here to teach. He is here to do his job and his mission. But he also is saying that they will not follow the way of the Duterte administration or the way that the war on drugs was carried out, lawless, and putting the law in their own hands. They are being patient with this investigation into the buildup of the cases. At yun nga sinabi niya na meron tayong ebidensya, meron din tayo yung mga hearings, at meron din yung mga witnesses na isa-isa pumupunta at bumabaliktad, nagkakwento. Yun nga lang, it's going to take time, and they say that all they are seeking here is really to get justice. Ed?
Well, Gretchen, ang sabi ka ni Father Albert Arejo, paring Bert to those who know him, pambansang mea culpa, which is Latin for I am sorry. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. That's from the Latin Mass. But before I go back to Father Albert, I have some notes to share with you. Sabi mo nga, the Gulfstream jet that brought the former president from Manila has landed already dun sa Dubai. I think it was supposed to have landed around 8 o'clock, just about a few minutes ago. It's estimated to be departing from Dubai for The Hague, Netherlands at 5:25 in the morning Dubai time. That would be around 9:25 in the morning Manila time. So the flight would take 5 to 7 hours before it gets to The Hague. So bahala na kayo dyan, and we hope for the best. In the meantime, I'll go back to yung interview with Father Albert Alejo. Kasi in protecting the witnesses, of course, Father Albert is also very cognizant of the fact that pag dumating na sa punto ng trial, magkikita-kita muli ang akusado na si dating Pangulong Duterte at yung mga testigo na hawak ni Father Albert ngayon doon sa The Hague. Are they ready for that? Ito ba'y kanilang napaghandaan? At kasi I can imagine it would also be the first time in a long, long time na magkikita sila face-to-face.
Well, Ed, tinanong nga natin yan, kung alam nila na yun ang dapat mangyari, dapat magkita sila dun sa pre-trial chamber. Sabi ni Father Albert, hindi naman daw siya abogado. So that's the first baseline here. But also I asked kung handa ba yung mga biktima na humarap kay Pangulong Duterte. At sabi niya, pag tuwing kinakausap niya yung mga biktima, they are willing to take this all the way. And this piece of news even caught them by surprise. realize na finally it is actually happening kasi noong una, sumubok lamang yung Pilipinas na mag-file ng kaso, tapos umalis tayo sa ICC pagkatapos noon. So it seemed so impossible. The idea of this arrest happening seemed so far away. And then suddenly things started changing, the government changing its tone. And now the arrest actually happened. So it's all catching them by surprise. That was the sense that I got from Father Albert a while ago. But there is no lack of determination that was also sensing from him, and also in his stories dun sa mga biktimang nakakausap niya, parang handa naman, ano, medyo talagang maingat lang talaga si Father Albert kasi naiintindihan naman natin maselan din yung kanyang posisyon, pero nakakausap niya, sabi niya may mga GC sila, they in correspondence. So there is a sense of community there that is quite hidden well because alam naman natin napaka-sensitibo nito. But as to your question, I say it's a yes that they are ready for the case. Although yun nga, parang sabi nga nila, ang lawak nito ang lawak ng sakop niya, no? Hindi siya masyadong aware kung sino lang yung mga biktima na kailangan bumarap, kung iilan yun, pero sa mga nakakausap niya, handa sila.
Okay. Well, Gretchen, this is going to be quite a long drawn process. There are actually 6 stages in the process involving the ICC. Ngayon gumugulo na itong kasong ito. Help me run through this first. Yung stages as we go along. Tapos na tayo ng preliminary examination. I'm referring first to the ICC. Yung preliminary examination kung saan the prosecutor ng ICC, si Karim Khan at present, has already determined that there is sufficient gravity and evidence and jurisdiction to proceed with an investigation. Tapos na po tayo doon. Nandun tayo sa investigation stage. After gathering evidence and identifying suspects, the prosecution, Karim Khan in this case, has already requested the judges of the ICC to issue an arrest warrant. At yun na po ang inilabas at dinala kahapon dito sa Manila. And the ICC has relied on the host country to make the arrest and so on down the line for the suspect to appear here. Ang susunod na step I understand is yung pre-trial stage kung saan you're hoping to attend, where 3 pre-trial judges will confirm physically the identity of the accused. Ibig sabihin, harap si Pangulong Duterte, dating Pangulong Duterte, sa 3 pre-trial judges doon sa The Hague kung saan i-verify ang kanyang identity at ang kanyang pagkakaintindi doon sa mga kasong kinakaharap niya. At magmula doon, baka you can help me here. What follows after yung identification and making sure na may understanding ang akusado doon sa kaso, ipaghaharap-harap na ba yung akusado at yung mga biktima at yung mga testigo?
Actually, Ed, sa alam natin, yun nga ang kailangan mangyari. Ipaghaharap niya yung mga witnesses, pati na rin yung defense ni Pangulong Duterte, and also the judges will try to determine if there is enough evidence to actually go into a trial. Gaya ng sabi mo, pre-trial chamber ito, kung saan kailangan din nila makuha yung panig ng dating presidente at ilatag din sa kanyang harapan yung mga ebidensya na nakalap nila. So at least 2 months yung itatagal ng prosesong yan. The judges will decide after 2 months if it's enough to go into trial. Pero marami pa tayong ibang katanungan na gusto nating malaman at masagot, katulad ng sino pwedeng bumisita sa dating Pangulo sa kanyang detention cell sa The Hague, kung meron ba siyang lawyer na pwede niyang isama doon. Kasi sinabi sa atin ni Father Albert kanina na meron daw international lawyers who may represent the former president. So ang tanong dyan, will he be represented by a full team? Ang tanong din natin kung ano yung rights and liberties niya inside the detention cell. So marami pa tayong kailangang madiskubre tungkol dito sa prosesong ito, but certainly the world is looking at what is happening now to the Philippines, a Philippine president getting arrested, and there was no TRO released by the Supreme Court before that decision was even sent out. The plane already flew. So could that set a precedence for other cases at The Hague? Those are questions that we'd like to have answered.
Okay, maraming salamat, Morning Matters host Gretchen Ho. We understand you're going to be traveling all the way to The Hague, so good luck for that, and Godspeed. Don't go away. We will be right back. I'm Ed Lingao. This is Morning Matters. Good morning to everybody. President Bongbong Marcos asserts that the Philippine government followed legal procedures in the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. In a press briefing, Marcos denies that Duterte's arrest was unlawful. He emphasizes that the government was merely complying with Interpol's request to enforce the ICC warrant. The president also denied claims that Duterte is being politically persecuted.
We followed all the legal procedures that are necessary, so I'm confident that if in further examination, you will find that it is proper and correct. We did not do this because it was derived from or it came from ICC. We did this because Interpol asked us to do it. And we have commitments to them, and we lived up to those commitments. This case started in 2017 when we were still members of the ICC, and it was during the time of former President Duterte. So I don't see how that can be political persecution on my part, because it was initiated before I even came into the pictures.
Now, former Senator Antonio Trillanes is joining us via Zoom for his insights on the latest developments regarding the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo, kasamang Ed at sa ating mga viewers.
Okay. Sir, well, let me start off with this. There have been attempts, at least last night, for pro-Duterte followers to mass up. I think kagabi, kung hindi sa Villamor, they also tried to mass up in Quezon City. I don't know if you've had any reports of any more attempts to mass up or to mobilize in the coming days. And if that is the case, what do you think? Is there any reason for us to be concerned?
Ang rule of thumb po natin dyan, kasamang Ed, is never underestimate anything, lalo na sa mga ganyang mga pagkilos. Pero ang nakita natin, in terms of unadulterated outrage, medyo manipis, especially dito sa Manila kasi hindi nila ito baluarte. Pero even yung tinignan natin yung nangyari sa Davao, mga at most 1,000 yung na-generate noon. Now, nilalagay natin yan sa context nung panahon ni President Erap Estrada nung siya ay kinulong nung EDSA 2. After no EDSA 2 rather, ang na-generate nila na mga tao dito sa EDSA daang-daang libo. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng tinatawag na EDSA 3. So yun yung genuine outrage, hindi yung ano lang, minobilize. Kaya medyo manipis yung nangyari kahapon. But still, sabi ko nga, huwag natin i-underestimate. Baka magplano yan sila within the next few days, few weeks. Lalo na dun sa hanay ng militar, which would be very dangerous. Yeah.
But sir, now that you mentioned that, is there any indications, any indicators, any rumblings or grumblings from the side of the security forces? Kasi kahit paano, in the 6 years of the Duterte administration, he was well, he did appear to be getting quite close to the security forces. In many ways, tinaas po niya yung sweldo at nagbigay ng benepisyo. So there are also concerns na baka some officials or officers might be closer to the former president than they should be.
I agree. Merong ganyang talagang loyalist, sabihin na natin, loyalista ni Duterte sa hanay ng AFP. Pero iba kasi yung yung loyalista ka lang, may yung sentiments mo, saloobin mo ganon, pero iba yung tatawid ka ng guhit na magre-rebelde ka. Will you be able to do that for the sake of this man? Yun yung nakita natin na wala pa siyang ganong level ng cult following. In the case kasi ni former President Marcos Sr., yung cult following niya talagang ganon na tipong nung napatalsik sa pwesto at nadala sa Hawaii, nakailang kudeta no mga panahon na yon, born out of the loyal followers, yung loyalista ni President Marcos. Kaya ibang level yon. Ngayon, parang wala pa tayong nakikita. Yung sa mga retired drunks, medyo outspoken sila.
Opo.
But after a few weeks na natanggap na nila yung fact na hindi na makakabalik itong si Digong, ano na yan, they will move on. Kasi hindi naman yung mga loyalista ni Digong ay makasara. Kasi alam din nila how psychologically unstable Sara Duterte is. Kaya hindi rin nila gusto. Yeah.
Well, sir, I bring that up because I do remember in the 6 years of the Duterte administration, nauso sa uniform services yung kahit naka-uniforme sila, mga general hanggang sa mga private, fist bump sign very, very publicly, even in official occasions. So that kind of marked how polarized yung AFP had become, at least during that administration.
Pinapauso nila noon to show loyalty. Yung iba talagang with gusto. Pero nakita nyo ba ngayon? Meron bang gumagawa noon nung nagkaroon lang ng announcement na lahat ng naka-fist salute, kahit mga past post kay questionin, rumor lang yon. Nagtanggalan sila ng kanilang Facebook post. So ibig sabihin nun, yung kanilang level of loyalty may hangganan na tipong okay, it was fashionable then pero ngayon hindi na. Mas mahal nila yung kanilang trabaho at yung kanilang tungkulin bilang sundalo kaysa sa yung kanilang loyalty kay Duterte. And that's a good thing. Ang importante is they will still follow the chain of command and follow legal orders. Kasi nung panahon ni Duterte, kahit inuutusan silang labagin yung kanilang mandato. Sinasabihan sila ni Duterte no na patayin nyo, kumuha kayo ng target list, patayin nyo yung mga civilian. Hindi ginawa ng AFP regardless nung kanilang loyalty at sentimiento niya at the height nung administrasyon ni Duterte.
Sir, so you see no reason to be concerned about that kind of possibility at any time right now?
Hindi po. Kaya ang sinasabi natin, wag natin i-underestimate. We should continue to be vigilant para manip in the bud. May any brewing sentiment dyan, mga nagmi-meeting, kailangan mapapaliwanagan, magpe-pep talk na yung mga senior commanders, i-rein in na sila. Hindi to pwedeng hayaan kasi very volatile po ang situation, especially at this time.
Sir, doon naman sa, I'll look at, kakabilang ako, sir. Kasi last night, and I think this morning as well, ang sasabi ng mga abogado ni dating Pangulong Duterte, for example, si Sal Panelo, they will file a motion or petition to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to order the return of the former president to the country because illegal daw ang pagkaka-aresto sa kanya at hindi deporte, pagkakapalis sa papuntang Netherlands. Your thoughts on this? Ito ba kasi if that is the case, if that is pursued in the Supreme Court and it gains ground, that will put us in a kind of a quandary kasi nandun na siya.
Hindi po quandary yan kasi pagka nandoon na siya sa dahig, na turnover na siya, kahit na maglulupasay pa yan si Panelo, wala na po. Hindi na po, wala na tayong hold dun sa physical body ni Duterte. Kaya anong bisa nung Supreme Court ruling? Magiging moot and academic yun na tinatawag. At ito po yan. Itong mga kampo ni Duterte, kung makapustura po sila, parang inape. Ito pong si Digong. Hindi po siya inape. Yung nakikita po nating mga imahe na matanda na siya, may tungkod siya, yan lang yung estado niya ngayon. Pero kung alalahanin po natin nung panahon ng 2016 hanggang 2022, naghari-harian po yan si Digong. Marami siyang pinapatay ng mga Pilipino, inapi ng mga Pilipino. Yun pong mga nasa squatters area, no? Talagang yung mga mahihirap, talagang pinapasok yung bahay nila at pinabaril na lang kung sino ang nandoon kasi pinatungan ng ulo, 10,000 bawat mapatay. Ganun po ang nangyari. Tapos all the while, nung na-discover dito sa Quadcom, yung pala siya ang merong drug lord na pinoproteksyonan. Meron siyang sarili niyang kartel at ang mga pinapatay niya na mga pusher ay yung kompetensya niya. Ganun po ang nangyari noon. Pero at the expense of the ordinary Filipino, 30,000 Pilipino ang pinapatay ni Duterte. Kaya yun po ang imahe na kailangan po natin panghawakan. Hindi po yung ngayon na nagpapakaawa sa mata ng mamamayan.
Sir, one more question, sir. What else do we expect to happen in the next few weeks or months? Kasi I understand, aside from the former president, may iba pang alleged principals doon sa ICC case. Among them, Senator Bato de la Rosa and possibly si Oscar Albayalde. What do we expect po and what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Ang nakikita po natin, baka si Bato de la Rosa na lang ang susunod, if at all. Pero that would be several months down the road kasi meron pang yung investigating team ng prosecutors ng ICC ay nakatutok sa kaso pa ni Digong. Ngayon, pero dito sa kaso ni Duterte, meron pang inaantay tayo kasi normally yung kaakibat ng warrant of arrest ay yung seizure of assets and property. So, aabangan po natin yan at titignan natin kung ano mangyayari.
Sir, so we're also expecting that. Is that also one of the motions that is pending with the ICC now? A seizure of assets?
Yan po ang kaakibat normally sa mga previous mga cases na ganito. Ayan po ang lumabas, kaya we would be expecting the same to happen. At maganda yan kasi para hindi ho magamit yung proceeds of the crime na tinatawag, yung involvement nila sa illegal drugs.
That's interesting, sir. Pero what would be the mechanism for that? Will a civil case have to be filed or a civil forfeiture case have to be filed, for example, with I don't know, with the Philippine courts? How does that proceed? Kasi siyempre iba yung trial doon sa The Hague sa Netherlands dahil nandun na yung dating pangulo, pero pagdating po sa mga assets, the assets would be here in the Philippines and possibly in other accounts abroad.
For sure, yung mga assets nila dun sa mga member states, ano na yon, alanganin na yon. Yung dito sa atin, yaan po ay depende dun sa kay President Marcos kung i-recognize niya yung ano na yon, seizure of assets na yan. But nakita nyo naman, yung prerogative ni President Marcos ay in-exercise niya dun sa tama. Ano? Kasi ultimately, ang tanong dito, tama ba yung pag-aresto kay Duterte? Yon ay morally and legally right. Malalim yung legal foundation yan, legal framework to justify yung arrest na nangyari kahapon. Nakita nyo, maganda yung pag-handle ng kapulisan and full credit to them. At ano po, yung moral angle dito. Karapat dapat ba na makulong si Duterte? Yes, kasi nakita po natin, saksi tayo kung gaano niya inabuso yung kapangyarihan niya laban sa mga ordinaryong mamamayan.
Okay. Maraming salamat for your insights, former Senator Antonio Trillanes. Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat po.
And when we return, we talk to an expert in law who also studied in The Hague. So Morning Matters will be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. And now to talk about former President Duterte's arrest, we have the Hague Academy of International Law alumnus, Attorney Dino Singson de Leon. Sir, magandang umaga and welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning and nice to see you again,
Yes,
Ed.
sir. Sir, let me start with this. Ito, kagabi si Sal Panelo, dating spokesman ni Pangulong Duterte, ang sabi niya, magsasampa sila ng kaso sa Korte Suprema to get the court to order the government to bring back the former president dahil illegal daw yung pagkakapaalis sa kanya at pagkaka-aresto. What do you think? Is that possible at all?
I think it's going to be a moot and academic question, no? As rightly pointed out a while ago by Senator Trillanes. May tinatawag tayo in law na coercive jurisdiction of a court, no, including the Supreme Court. And in this particular instance, once considering that President Duterte will now be turned over in The Hague, that is outside of the coercive jurisdiction of our local courts. That is to say that our local courts cannot order a foreign entity to do its bidding, right?
In layman's terms, wala na magagawa.
Walang magagawa. Fait accompli, no? At paano niyo kahit i-order niya yung Philippine government, even the Philippine government, once it turns over Mr. Duterte to the International Criminal Court, wala na rin siyang jurisdiction yun, hindi niya na rin control. So the Philippine government can also not do anything the moment that they turn over President Duterte to The Hague.
Understood, sir. Pero ibang bagay yung wala na magagawa versus maaari pa bang magkaroon ng finding, if at all, ang Korte Suprema na mali ang ginawa ninyo? Would that be possible? I mean, if you look at the law and you look at how things happen with the law, would that even be possible?
It's possible. It's arguable. No, my reading is the Philippines was just abiding with its obligation to the Interpol, no, and that is to turn over as soon as possible, as soon as practicable, a fugitive already being searched by an international organization, and the warrant of arrest was coursed through the Interpol, no. I don't believe, as a practicing lawyer, no, that the Rome Statute still applies kasi sinasabi doon sa Rome Statute dapat dalhin muna doon sa korte ng custodial state, but we already withdrew from the International Criminal Court, or from the Rome Statute. So that means that it would be wrong to take a look at the rules of the ICC as if it still applies to us. So what is our obligation therefore? Our obligation is with the Interpol, and yun yung applicable. And based on Interpol rules, the moment that a red notice is released, we should forthwith deliver that particular person.
Word again.
I'm just using that word again.
That word. Yeah. But sir, regardless of what the Rome Statute says or what the ICC says, did we follow local laws? Did we follow local procedures? Because in the end, baka naman dun sumabit. I mean, baka naman dun sabihin ng Korte, whether Korte Suprema or an RTC or Court of Appeals, na this was the process specified by law, and did we follow it at all?
Well, alam mo, right now, no, this is in the case of Marcos versus Manglapus. No? Marcos versus Manglapus, if you would recall, President Aquino prevented the return of the Marcoses when they wanted to return. And it was called, yung doctrine doon was the residual powers of the president to make sure that there's peace and order, to ensure that public welfare is protected. No? The president has awesome powers, and that is part of his prerogative. And at that point in time, when nakita niya na kailangan immediate ang transfer, if the transfer will actually happen at all, then that is within the wisdom and prerogative of the president. And at the same time, nothing was stopping the president. You know, the Supreme Court had the chance as well to issue a TRO because they were able to read the petition, no? And until 1103, there was no TRO issued by the Supreme Court. So at that point in time, nothing was preventing the president from abiding with our international obligations under the Interpol.
Nag-aabang nga yung mga abogado ni Pangulong Duterte sa Supreme Court kahit gabi.
Correct.
And we were wondering last night, may tama ba sa Supreme Court the time, and I thought the declaration was irraffle, which means that it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah, pero pag bago kasi i-raffle, pagkasubmit, pwede na kasi mag-issue ang Supreme Court ng TRO eh. The raffling is another thing, di ba? But they can issue a TRO. You know, this was all over the news. Ang dami na nating
It's no
analysis,
surprise.
di ba? So, of course, all the justices were aware of this, di ba? And they could have issued a TRO if they wanted to, right? But at that point in time, wala. So, it was the prerogative of the President as a chief executive to implement our obligations under the Interpol, consistent as well with his residual powers under the case of Marcos versus Manglapos.
So in a way, yung hindi pag-issue ng immediate TRO ng Supreme Court is already in itself a decision.
Well, pwede sila mag-issue pero too late. Fait accompli, di ba? At that point in time, the President has already exercised his prerogative to turn over forthwith.
That word again.
Mr. Duterte.
Obviously, wala na siya dito eh. So, kahit mag-issue ng TRO, there's nothing to restrain anymore.
Nothing to restrain anymore. Pero alam mo, no, nakakatuwa lang isipin na kung mapapansin mo, di ba, grabe yung lahat sila parang kahapon. Where's the due process? Lahat. Grabe yung panaghoy ng due process kahapon. No? Those due process was not accorded to all the victims of the drug war then. So, maybe ang lesson din, kahit na sino pang, politician, leader, no, you shouldn't take the human rights seriously because there will come a time that you will need to invoke this. Ito yung sinasabi natin sa human rights community na human rights are indivisible. You cannot just apply it to one or when it is convenient. No? Whether or not you disagree or agree with that particular person, you respect due process, you respect his human rights. Ang nangyari, di ba? Summarily killing, para silang hindi tao, para silang hindi, di ba, citizen, mamamayan, nung trinato, makikita mo pinagpapatay na lang, no? Biglang ngayon, all of a sudden, importante pala ang due process.
Well, I do remember the former president in some of his speeches, and even in his SONA, deriding the concept of human rights and even at times threatening human rights defenders. I mean, in his public speeches, and that's also on record. So that also puts him in an awkward situation now. But also at the same time, on the other hand, whether or not certain people respect human rights or disrespect human rights, in the end. I suppose we also want them to have their rights.
Correct.
And in this particular case, which brings us to that question again. In this particular case, was the former president's human rights, were the former president's human rights at all violated in what happened yesterday?
I don't think, sir. There was a valid warrant of arrest. In fact, the service of the warrant of arrest was very professional. Kahit nagmumura na si Kitty Duterte, hindi siya pinatulan. There was no violence whatsoever. Binasahan siya ng Miranda rights, pinadoktor siya. And then afterwards, dinala siya comfortably sa The Hague. And it's not as if he doesn't have any remedies anymore. He still has remedies under international law. And let's also all remember, and ito yung medyo false dichotomy na ginagawa kasi ngayon ng yung mga rhetoric na nakikita mo, no? Ang sinasabi nila is this is an affront to our sovereignty. All of our sudden, again, very ironic, di ba? Sovereignty is now important. Pero in the issue of the West Philippine Sea, it was the arbitral ruling was just a piece of paper according again to Mr. Duterte. Pero ang sinasabi kasi nila is hindi raw dapat yung foreigners, yung mga puti ang nag-i-impose sa atin ng justice, no? But I think that is they're hugely mistaken because part of our Constitution, remember Ed, Article 2, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution, international law is part of the law of the land. We call that in the study of law the doctrine of incorporation. What does that mean? No? It means that this international mechanism is actually our mechanism as a people, as a Filipino people, no? And that means hindi pwedeng sabihin na hindi yan sa atin. Kasama yan. And in fact, the Constitution says so, which is the highest expression of the collective will of the sovereign Filipino people, no? So it is absolutely wrong to say that international law is not part of us or it's being imposed on us. No, it's actually part of the law of the land.
But you're part of the community of nations
Correct.
to begin with. But sir, okay, let's move forward. Okay, the former president is supposed to arrive in The Hague, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 hours from now. I suppose, if you run us through the process, pagdating niyo doon, mukhang dire-diretso na yun hanggang katapusan ng trial.
Depende, no? The first thing is magkakaroon muna siya ng preliminary appearance. In the preliminary appearance, babasahan siya ng rights niya. And then at the same time, ito yung parang arraignment natin, di ba? Babasahin yung charges, babasahan siya ng
Will he
rights
be
niya.
asked if he pleads guilty?
Parang ganun yung proseso kasi babasahan siya ng rights niya and babasahan siya ng charges. Of course, there's gonna be a plea there. Afterwards, no, magkakaroon muna nung tinatawag nating yung pre-trial determination again, di ba? So actually wala pa tayo sa trial. Meron pang pre-trial determination of whether or not trial should proceed, di ba? So the first one was yung prosecutor pala nag-apply ng warrant, and then ang quantum of evidence required is reasonable belief lang, di ba? The second one is substantial evidence na. There's a substantial reason to believe that trial should proceed. So mas mataas na. So mas mababa pa lang yung reasonable and then substantial evidence na. And then the pretrial chamber will determine if it is proper to proceed with trial.
Ito yung 60 days. 60 days.
So pagkatapos na mag-determine ng pretrial chamber, tapos sinabi lang, sige, there's substantial evidence to believe, no? Tsaka pala mag-arrange yung judges in an actual trial. But itong hearings na ito, magkakaroon ng reception of evidence doon sa pre-trial pa lang. And then, pwede na magpa-participate na sila Mr. Duterte doon at kanilang mga abogado at ang mga witnesses. No? So parang ang analogous dito sa atin is yung parang bail hearings, di ba? Meron ng initial hearing, pero hindi pa yun yung main trial. No? Pero meron pa main trial.
Is this going to be public? Can we watch this? Can the public watch this?
Yes, when I was in The Hague, no, I was there when they were reading yung initial decision of the pre-trial chamber that they have jurisdiction on this matter. So I was able to enter. So it is open, but of course, very limited rin yung seats. No? So I would presume that there is a process like what we did there. Pero syempre maraming mga taong gusto manood, including us in the human rights community. We're already looking for flights and the hotels there as early as now. Definitely, because it is our collective responsibility to make sure na everything will go well and that we will be observing properly what's going to happen.
Tsaka this also sets a precedent of sorts for a lot of things. Of course, a former sitting president going to trial, and also
the first Asian,
and a former sitting president going to trial after his country left the Rome Statute.
Correct. So ang daming precedent. I think this is also earth-shaking for the ICC itself. It is earth-shaking in the international community, like in the international human rights movement. You know, my classmates in the Hague Academy, pinag-uusapan na yan ngayon as of the moment, considering na talagang it shows, no, that international law can wield its power and can hold individuals accountable. Usually, ang debate kasi sa international law, is it really law? How do you enforce it? Is it really coercive? It's always a debate, right? Everyone who took international law, that's the first thing that they will ask. Is it really law, right? But in this particular instance, it appears that there's some sort of triumph of international law, putting a despot into the jurisdiction of an international body, so that there's going to be due process and they will check whether he should be held accountable, diba? And he has to submit to the process because he's already been arrested.
And countries usually are very hesitant to go head to head with each other. But now you're looking at international law being applied on certain people. But sir, okay, let's look at timetables. My last question. Looking at timetables, how long is this gonna run?
Well, depends, no? Kasi syempre depende rin sa number of witnesses, no? Pero hindi siya kasing bagal ng system natin. Kasi continuous trial yan, di ba? Meron devoted prosecutors yan, may devoted lawyers, may devoted judges. Hindi naman kasi ganun karami, ang crimes against humanity, di ba? Ilan lang yung tinatry na yan, and they have sufficient resources and expertise to do that, no? So, our expectation is gonna be a continuous trial. My estimate, but of course, it largely depends, hindi naman ganun karami yung trials pa, is this is going to be over in maybe 1 to 2 years.
Well, yeah, mabilis yan compared to the Philippines.
Compared to the Philippines, definitely. Kaya kaso lang ni Senator Laila de Lima, ilang taon, di ba? 7 years. I was there the entire time, and it was tough, right? And alam yun, wala pa kaming defense evidence in chief there. We were all able to have the cases dismissed only because demure to evidence. Wala talagang kwenta yung kaso, basura talaga, invento talaga siya. Imagine na lang kung magpe-presente pa kami ng ebidensya. It could have been longer. Yeah.
Pero, okay, 1 to 2 years, and then what happens after that?
Well, magkakaroon ng judgment yung ICC, no? And then afterwards, di ba, hatulan si President Duterte, pwede siya mag-appeal, may appeals chamber naman, no? And then after that, it becomes final. Whatever the decision may be. If he gets acquitted, hindi na kailangan mag-appeal, di ba? Kasi bawal naman mag-appeal pag acquitted ka, no? So, so essentially, after that, kukulong siya.
But is it possible for a decision to be made to dismiss the charges even before it gets to the trial itself?
Yes,
and
even
to
in the pre-trial actually. So
Okay.
hindi pa, alam mo, ngayon aresto pa siya, but he can say that there is no substantial evidence to believe na a crime has been committed. Yung higher quantum of evidence, no? So actually, ang haba pa ng pagdadaanan at ang dami pang remedies ni President Duterte. Di ba kitang-kita natin na binibigyan siya ng oras, ng pagkakataon, ng due process, di ba? Pero nagagawa pa rin na hindi bibigyan ng due process. Pero again, hindi nakita mo ba yung mga comments, di ba, nung for example nung uncle ni Kian de los Santos saying na yung pamangkin ko hindi naman binigyan ng day sa court, binaril na lang, di ba? Siya bibigyan siya ng napakahaba. Meron siyang battalion of lawyers, I'm sure dahil lalim naman ang kanilang balon, mayaman naman sila, right? And influential and powerful sila. Sometimes no, it's shocking how yung disparity of the treatment of justice, di ba? Yung despot pa yung nakakakuha ng due process in this particular instance. Pero ganoon we have to respect due process despite the fact that he never did respect due process with respect to those people who are the victims of the violent drug.
Attorney Pasit lang, one last question. Okay, what kind of evidence are we looking for here for a conviction? Is it also beyond reasonable
Proof
doubt?
beyond reasonable doubt.
And if that is the case, how difficult or how easy is it to prove beyond reasonable doubt kasi in this particular case, you're looking at somebody way up there. Hindi naman siyang kumakalabit ng gatilyo.
Yung crimes against humanity actually, di ba, maraming, it's really difficult. Kasi ang assumption, di ba, they're very powerful, they were able to tamper with evidence, very evidence. Kaya nga ang daming hindi rin nako-convict dito sa Pilipinas kasi binura na yung ebidensya, di ba, binila na yung logbook. Iba na. So actually, that's the reason why there's a need for transitional justice mechanisms rin, but that's gonna be a longer discussion. No? But definitely we have to recover as a nation. We have to help the victims. Walang currently any state mechanism to help the victims. Wala silang compensation, wala silang assistance right now. Sila lang nagko-cope sa sarili ng trauma. Pero going to your question, ultimately, di ba, the trial will be there, diba? The trial will be there. The trial will progress, and hopefully, Mr. Duterte will be held accountable.
Okay, Attorney Dino De Leon, sir, maraming salamat for joining us this morning, and well, the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that was the Hague Academy of International Law alumnus, Attorney Dino Singson De Leon, and that's today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.